What was it like to be kids? Was it a traditional household? How were you raised?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that because I think it has a lot to do with it. So, we did not come from entrepreneurial parents, right? So my dad worked at um, a corporate job for 30 years doing accounting, bookkeeping. Fantastic parents, both my mom and my dad. My mom was stay-at-home mom, but they were always really supportive of us. And so, even when wasn't doing good in school, but they saw I enjoyed the trades, they started buying tools, right? And so my garage, where they used to park, got converted into a little wood shop, and just a lot of support there. But our upbringing was mostly in the woods, so we lived near a bunch of undeveloped land, and so me and my brother would go build tree houses and bike jumps, and we weren't in a lot of organized sports. We would do more things like skateboarding or BMX and things like that. So you kind of define your own path and do it your own way. And but yeah, a lot of just like playing in the woods, a lot of freedom,
A lot of independence
yeah,
at a young age.
a lot of autonomy to make mistakes and do things that maybe cross the line a little bit, but then you figure out where that line is and
Through a
navigate.
broken ankle or a broken wrist or getting in trouble or something
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Breaking things.
Luckily, never too far, right?
Right,
But I think we still have and had awesome parents to support us, and even when we became businessmen, they were there supporting us through that process, right? Early on, it'd be like they would show up to these houses and help out and bring us lunch or whatever, and so we had really, really, really solid upbringing to allow us to fail and allow us to make leaps of faith. But it wasn't like we started on third base from an entrepreneurial perspective. We had to make a lot of mistakes to figure it out because simply they didn't know either, but they were there to say, good job, keep trying, all those things.
Was there any tough love at all? Doesn't sound like it.
I wouldn't call it tough love. I would say they're realists, right? So they would give us honest answers. But it wasn't ever tough or mean spirited.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little more even on my parents. So like my mom went to art school, did like kids illustrations for books. So she's very artistic. My dad, more like finance, accounting. And, I feel privileged because I feel like I get the opportunity to merge those skill sets, right? So when I'm building businesses, I truly feel artistic and creative. And it's like I'm, doing things like this magazine here and producing something creative that is tied to finance and money. And so, value add is like an art project to me. And so, I get to merge the support they've given me over the years and the people they are into my craft.
What's the conversation? How old are you and your brother now?
I'm 34. My brother's 36.
What's the conversations with your parents now? With you being 30-something-year-old guys, and you have kids, they have grandkids.
Yeah.
What's the conversations now as adults with these same parents?
So I have a 3-year-old and 6-year-old. My brother has a 3, 4, and 7. So like obviously grandparent mode is in full effect. I actually am in trying to be more intentional about that. So that just the other day, me and my wife took my parents out to dinner, just us, because we said like, hey, we don't want to lose sight of, we want to have a relationship with you as mom and dad and not just grandma and grandpa. But still a strong relationship, probably see them on average once every 10 days or so. They live probably 10 minutes, 20 minutes from us. And so still very involved, but now they just kind of ask like, how's the business going? And they've invested with us on several projects. And so it would just be like, hey, how's that project going? When's the distributions coming or whatever? But so they're both retired now. And actually we can dig into this, but they were one of the first investors when first 8 years, we didn't raise money from investors. Then after 8 years, we made the decision to try to scale and raise money from outside investors. They were one of the first, which the results of that allowed them to retire, which was cool. And then was like, man, let's keep doing that because it feels good to throw what we're good at others and let them experience the benefits as well. So now we have about 190 investors.
That's awesome. It's funny with such loving and caring parents and you all just having so much admiration for them, right? It comes through. it's like when's our money coming, Jered?
Well, it's not like a shakedown, but that's what they're.
When's the distribution? That's what they're counting on. That's their retirement, right?
Yeah. I guess it used to be like, hey, do you need help with anything, or like, what are you struggling with it? Let's talk. And now they kind of know like that's beyond us, and so our contribution is just like, if anything, just a check passively, and so that's what they're curious about.
Do they do they share that they're proud?
Oh, all the time, yeah. I mean, they share that they're proud now, but they've been doing that the whole time, right? So it'd be like, we bought this crummy little foreclosure for $20,000, and they would be so proud of us for having it, right? But I think what, being a parent now and trying to learn from what I experienced and take the positive things that they did and turn them into my own, right? I don't want to try to recreate my childhood for my kids, but I do like to learn from the wisdom of great parents who I had. So one thing they were really good about is praising the process and not the result. And so they would praise, you guys worked really hard on this house, and that's what I'm proud of. Not like, oh, you made $20,000, and that's what I'm proud of, right? And so now my daughter being 6 and she's in gymnastics, right? How does this convert to me? I think a lot about that. And so, I tell her, like, I saw how hard you were practicing today. And she's like, yeah, I got my, whatever skill. And I'm like, yeah, that's really great. But you got that because of how hard you worked, right? And so they were very good about praising actions that produced results and less about results.
How'd they know how to do that?
I don't know.
Because that's a skill in life, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a CEO, as a business owner. And they had never been in. Your dad was an accountant. I don't know if he managed anybody, but they weren't in these big leadership positions. Did it just occur to them?
So no, my dad was, as far as I know, I don't know if he ever had any direct reports, right? So not leadership positions. I would say the same from a business perspective for my mom, what roles she did have. But they were super intentional about creating the space to be good parents. So one of the reasons I think my dad didn't say climb up the corporate ladder is because he said, no, this is more important for leaving the space to be a dad and all that. So I think, probably just a lot of trial and error on their part too. Like they see what works, but if I had to guess, it's probably, how did they know that? I think when you get really good parents, which is what I had and I'm trying to be, is like you have true kind of unconditional love and support. And so they'll figure it out, right? So they look for the best method, and they probably just learned over time, right? Maybe I got some tough love and I don't remember it. I'm sure
you don't remember the tough times.
I'm sure they made a lot of mistakes. Every parent does, right? There's no right book.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure we drove them crazy a lot, right? Not being good in school and pushing back against authority a lot. We liked to do that. I was very good at knowing the line and like getting right up close to it when it came to like questioning authority and things like that.
I'm sure they think that you stepped over the time or two.
Oh, I did.
Okay. There you go. Not just right up to it.
Yeah.
So how do you you said you don't want to just relive your childhood for your kids, but how do you, now you're actually stepping into leadership, leading 50 people in the organization, you and your brother, and doing something that your dad didn't do because he wanted to make space for the family. How do you do that as a CEO of a growing company, and you guys have big goals? So you're supposed to, in about 20 months, you're supposed to be double in size. So how do you manage life on still being a great dad and a husband and all that with the responsibilities of being a CEO of a significant company?
Yeah. So, I mean, just like I don't want to try to create my childhood for my kids, I don't think my dad would want me to recreate his fatherhood. We're not doing the same things. I'm trying to take components of his wisdom and apply it to what I'm doing, and we're just different people. And so I am very intentional about balancing what some people might call like the buckets of life or pillars of life and all these things, right? And so being a CEO, being a business owner, there's different responsibilities that I have than my parents ever saw, right? But it doesn't mean I can't be a good parent or I don't really intentionally try. And so there's the cliche of like life is just a balance, right? There's times when I get way out of balance, right? Way too into the weeds with work, and then I'll react, right? And I'm have a great wife who will, she'll support me.
Pick up the slack.
She'll pick up the slack. And then, at some point she'll say like, I'm sensing that the slack doesn't need to be there anymore. Come on back.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and she'll voice that. And, I think I have the ability to hear that and adjust.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not just, you could definitely call me a workaholic, but I'm not one that will do it at the demise of the other really important components of life.